Hi, I am here to review a book about food and the way we eat. Um, I chose this book for this channel because obviously in America at least there are so many people who are suffering with heart disease and diabetes and obesity because of the way they eat, and it's causing a lot of suffering, and it's hard to be happy when you're not healthy. So that's how it ties in with this Lokaha yoga channel. The book that I'm reviewing is called The Evolved Eater. The full title is The Evolved Eater, A Quest to Eat Better, Live Better, and Change the World by Nick, I'm probably going to say his name wrong, Taranto, Taranto. He's the co-founder of Plated, which is a meal service company. I think you go online and order the meals and they get delivered to your door. So as I was reading the book, I was curious about his business. I would say at least a third of the book is about his business. And that's my one complaint about the book, that it's sort of like a commercial for his business. So he and his friend Josh started this business called Plated, where they ship meals that are ready to cook. Like they send you the ingredients to your home and then you cook the food in your home. And I guess they give you like a recipe and they tell you how to cook it. So the benefit of that, the reason they started the business was because they saw that all these people were eating poorly and a lot of people were eating out. I think he said something like 2/3 of the calories that Americans consume are consumed outside of the house. So they wanted to start with dinner and give people the foods that they needed in the right proportions without any waste, so that they could just cook the meals and not have anything to throw out. So their vision was that they were going to like get huge and feed 10 billion people by 2050, and that everybody would be buying food this way. And they talk about how the food system in America is old-fashioned. It's been the same for 50, 60, 70 years, and that they believe data and technology will change the way people eat food. So this book was written in 2018, and he says in the book that he wrote the book for a couple of years. He was working on it. I think they started their business in 2012, and already by the time, oh, there's a fly in here. Already by the time, I'm reading this book in 2020, it looks like they sold their business to a supermarket, and now their foods are, you can still buy them, but you would have to buy them in the supermarket, which I thought was weird because throughout the entire book, he kept on talking about how important it was to change the way people are eating and to stop relying on supermarkets, and then he sells his business to a supermarket. So I thought that was a little bit strange. But the book that, where he wasn't talking about how he started the business was very interesting. And actually, let me go back to the part where he is talking about his business. If you are an entrepreneur, especially if you are in the food industry, this book would be interesting to you, because he does talk so much about his business and how they got it started and the trouble that they ran into. I think it's an interesting read if you've ever tried to start your own business, or if you've ever looked at people who started their own business and sold for millions of dollars and thought, oh, they had it so easy. He does a pretty good job of describing the horrors that he had to go through to get the business started, and definitely the stress that goes along with being an entrepreneur. So I thought that was interesting as somebody who has tried to start businesses. But the rest of the book, the beginning of the book, he talks about the history of food, and this book actually made me want to read other books. he talks about when humans were hunters and gatherers, and he paints a very rosy picture. Now, granted, back then people died a lot younger, and infant mortality and childhood mortality was higher back then. But he does a good job of explaining what the life of hunters and gatherers were probably like. A lot of leisure time. They would go out and get the food in the morning, and then by lunchtime they would be able to play with the kids and socialize, and it just seemed like a nice low stress lifestyle. And he says that they had a lot of food variety, and he kind of takes a different viewpoint than other people that I've heard in the past, where hunters and gatherers were living a miserable existence and had a lot of food insecurity. He actually says that when we started farming, that's when things got worse for humans, because farmers would often just plant one or two crops. There was a lot less diversity in what we were eating, and you were tied to the land. People were spaced pretty far apart, and there was less socialization. So he definitely seems to think that farming and industrialization has led to less happiness and more suffering for people. And then after World War II, he talks about how food that was created for soldiers out on the front lines had to be adapted to just general use by all the people in the U.S. And that's why we have so many processed foods, and we've just kept going in that direction. More and more processed foods, less natural foods, less fruits and vegetables. Everything has changed. Everything has become so mechanized and just overly processed, and what we're eating now isn't really even food, it's just food-like. He refers to it as the crap trap, and I forget what CRAP stands for. It's an acronym. I think it's consumable, riskily altered provisions. I think that's what it stands for. I can't find it now, but yeah, so he talks about the foods that you find in the supermarket, and if they are heavily crap or just lightly crap. But he definitely thinks that people should eat more natural, more fruits, more vegetables. He is a meat eater. I'm a vegan, so I don't really necessarily believe that his meals that he was creating for people and selling to people were all that healthy, because I don't believe in eating meat. And he definitely had meat in his recipes. But the book is, it's entertaining. It's a quick read. I read it in, I think 2 days, 2 evenings. Definitely of interest if you are an entrepreneur, if you're interested in food, if you want to eat better. Definitely has a lot of interesting ideas in it, food for thought. And like I said, it made me want to learn more about the history of food and hunters and gatherers in particular. I would like to learn more about the life that our ancestors had when they were in that time frame. So overall, I would give this book 4.5 stars out of 5. 4.5 because, like I said, a big portion of the book was sort of like a commercial for his business, which, I didn't necessarily get the book to read that. I got it because I thought it was about food. But it does make sense that he talked about his business, because his business was in the food industry. I just kind of felt like it was a little bit of a commercial for his business, which is now very much changed from the way he wrote about in the book, which was a little bit of a bummer. I was hoping that his business was going to be like this huge thing that I had just never heard of, but like I said, he and his business partner actually sold the business to, I think it was Albertsons grocery store. Yeah, and the other thing that I'll say, I disagreed with something that he wrote about in this book. He talked about how important it is to change big food, and the only way to do that, in his opinion, is through data and technology. I don't think that's the case at all. I think with changes to governmental policies, get rid of the subsidies for meat production and corn and soy production, and maybe give subsidies to people, to farmers who are growing fruits and vegetables, that would definitely change the way we eat. It would make fruits and vegetables less expensive. It would make meat and dairy more expensive. That's not data or technology. It's just a policy change that could dramatically improve the way we eat in America. And I don't think it takes data or technology to make different choices when you're at the supermarket. I mean, he was definitely coming from sort of a tech background. He had an MBA from Harvard Business School. So I think the people that he was surrounded by were sort of tech lovers, and his partner was definitely techie. So I think that's why he had that opinion that everything would only change through technology. I think people just like you and me can make changes when we go to the supermarket, and if we stop buying processed foods, they'll stop making them because they won't make any money. So The Evolved Eater, an interesting read, a quick read, 4.5 stars out of 5. Thanks for watching, and pick up a copy of this book and read it and tell me what you think in the comments. See you soon.